I'm about to show you a clip of Vice President JD Vance explaining Palantir to comedian Theo. I've been tracking public sentiment on Palantir for years. What you're about to hear is the exact misconception that's been affecting how people view this company. I'm going to show you why Vance's explanation completely destroys the surveillance state narrative that's hurt Palantir's reputation, break down a few key insights from the conversation, and share the truth about what Palantir actually does.
There's the Palantir company, right?
Yeah.
And that's about a surveillance thing. So this thing is fucked. This sounds crazy, dude. Like this sounds like we're only going to be human for like 2 more years, right? So and this is the Palantir company where they're going to build security databases that have all of our information in them, right? That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying, yeah.
And it's going to have like everything. It'll like look at you and know like if you're good at tennis or if you've ever, if you have $60 in your pocket or if you're, it can tell if your kids are, if your kids can have a limp or whatever, if he'll be in the Christmas play.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It can tell all of that. And that feels real scary, man. Like
I get it.
To a regular guy on the street,
yeah.
that feels like we're going to give our society like we're going to become these, like they're going to have know everything about us. It makes you feel like you won't be a person anymore.
I hear you.
Does that make sense to you?
It definitely makes sense to me. I mean, let me try to explain. So to be clear, I'm not an expert on this particular deal. I actually just read about it earlier today or maybe yesterday, but the president did an executive order, I don't know, a couple months ago. And the basic idea is you've got all this different information, but it's not accessible in one place. Mm-hmm. So like, let me give you an example where this might be useful.
Okay.
Let's say you catch an illegal immigrant, okay? And that person's using a social security number, but the Department of Homeland Security that arrests the person can't actually figure out what social security number that illegal immigrant is, what name it's attached to, okay? Or, let's say you're like investigating some terrorist and the FBI arrests the person, but there are information about like where the person lived a couple of years ago that you'd like to have, so you'd maybe like to go talk to their friends or associates or whatever.
Yeah.
My understanding is that it does sound odd, but that what they're trying to do is take all the information that the Department of Homeland Security has, that the FBI has, and just make it so that it's actually not in some hyper inefficient system. It's all sort of accessible. And here's the thing. Modern technology is just crazy and weird, and it affects our privacy. And I think we don't have to think that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. It is like a reality of the world that we live in.
Right.
And
sometimes I get a little romantic about things.
Well, I mean, look.
And I think it's going to go back in time.
I mean, look, everybody, I kind of agree with you. I think people are sort of going to rebel against technology a little bit. In some ways they already are. But I mean, look, dude, if I, this has happened to me so many times, where I'm talking to my wife, like, oh, what are we gonna make for dinner for the kids tonight? Oh, let's just like do DoorDash or Grubhub. Mm-hmm. And then you go on like X or you go on, Facebook or Instagram, and there's like an advertisement for a DoorDash coupon. And it's like, well, I was just talking about this 10 minutes ago. So we know that big technology spies on us and harvests our data. I honestly worry more about that than about like connecting the DHS system to the FBI system.
So that's all that this Palantir deal is part. Like a lot of that, it's just connecting information.
So I'm hardly an expert, but that is my understanding is that it's just taking, DHS has information, FBI has information, Secretary of the Treasury has information, and making it possible for that information to be searched by whoever is looking for it.
Oh,
that's my understanding.
Yeah.
But again, like I hear that story, and my reaction is the same, which is, oh, I don't like the government having my information. The reality is the government already has my information. And more importantly, some of these private technology companies have way more information on me than the government does.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, anywhere you shop has unbelievable information on you. I mean, let me tell you like crazy.
Blockbuster, 2 days ago, Blockbuster was like, happy birthday. They were wrong.
So I gotta.
It's like, you're out of business. There's a
yeah. When was the last time you were at a Blockbuster?
But some guy somewhere, probably in another country, Nepal,
you and
is
FDR
somewhere.
You and FDR took your Celsius and went down to Blockbuster to get some VHS rentals. Okay,
a little bit of boogie, boogie nights for the fellas.
That was FDR's favorite movie, so that makes sense. So, all right. What were we talking about? Technology.
Know,
okay. So I was, okay, I got a brief from my national security guy. I gotta make sure it's not classified information. Okay, no, it's not classified information. Okay, basically, long story short, one of the guys who works in the national security team of the Trump administration gave me this brief about how, okay, when you're using an iPad and let's say, you're reading a story from some random newspaper and you hover on a particular paragraph, like your iPad is collecting that information on you.
God.
Like it's actually trying to track what you're doing. Like that is the stuff that really freaks me out.
Well, how do we stop that? I think it freaks everybody out. I think it just makes people sick. It's like you don't even feel like you exist for any purpose anymore other than to be advertised to or to be, I don't even know anything else sometimes.
Well, you think about it like think about 100 years ago, 50 years ago, the most brilliant scientists in the world, they're trying to figure out nuclear energy. They're trying to figure out how to cure cancer. Mm-hmm. Now, way too many of them are figuring out, like, how do I get a person to linger on a digital advertisement for a little bit longer so that we can increase the price of the ad that we sell them by 3 pennies?
Yeah.
Like, there's something I think that warps our entire economy about the digital advertisement world because too many smart people are focused on getting us addicted to these applications.
Yeah.
And I mean, what do we do about it? I mean, one thing is from a policy perspective, we've already looked into a lot of things we can do on data privacy and protection. So we're trying to make it harder for these firms to collect information on you.
Well, it feels like with Palantir, it's like they're going to collect all the information though. So that feels like.
I mean, look, my understanding again, so this is full disclosure because I think it's important. I think it's important. I think it's important. I think it's important to be open. So Palantir, you asked about Peter Thiel. Palantir is actually one of the companies that he invested in, right? So, he
doesn't run it.
My understanding is he doesn't run it, but I don't believe that Palantir is collecting any information. I believe it's purely building a database that's sort of combining the information. I might have some of my team that you guys get. Is that right? Is that accurate? Okay,
cool. No, I'm glad. Yeah. Because we're just trying to figure it out. And right now, I think Palantir has there's a lot of conflict right now in Gaza. Everybody knows about that.
Of course.
And Palantir is been accused of being complicit in a lot of the violence over there. And so I think that's where it gets really scary for regular person on the street. I'm like, well, if this is the company, because you see videos of horrific stuff online.
Sure. Very sad stuff.
And you're like, well, if this is the company we're hiring, how do I know that I might not be walking down the street and just a sniper bullet could hit me from them, you know?
So that is...
To be really honest with you.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. And I think the answer to that question is the only real protection that we have against that is that we've got to, elect the right people and we've got to make sure that our government doesn't do crazy stuff. Because, I mean, look, any of this information can be misused. Like our government has your social security number. Okay. Yeah. Using that information, the government could spy on you. The government could give your information over to an illegal alien to start a fake account in your name. And that, by the way, happens. I had a friend of mine who had an illegal alien steal his social security number. And when he went to the IRS to complain about it, they wouldn't give him information on the person who was stealing his stuff. And by the way, that's what we're trying to do is make it so the IRS can talk to the Department of Homeland Security. But the only real protection against this stuff, I think, is to have a government that actually protects the rights of its citizens. And, we should all be worried about our privacy being invaded by the government. I think we should be just as worried about private corporations as we should be the government. I think, everybody can invade our privacy, but I don't, let me put it this way. I don't think that the solution to that problem is to pretend that the government doesn't already have this information. It just does.
Right.
You got to make sure it doesn't misuse it. And that's my view, at least, is we got to live in reality, and the government's already got this information. We just need to make sure they don't misuse it.
So we just listened to JD Vance explain Palantir to comedian Theo Von. And honestly, that might have been one of the most important conversations for Palantir investors in years. What we witnessed was the exact fear versus reality dynamic that's been affecting this company and how proper education can completely flip the narrative. Let me break down why this matters so much. The average person's Palantir fear is real, and actually, I think it's understandable. Listen to Theo Von's reaction. It's going to have everything. You won't be a person anymore. They're going to know everything about us. He talks about feeling like you won't exist except to be advertised to. Theo represents exactly what the average American thinks when they hear Palantir. The fact that a popular comedian with millions of listeners has these concerns shows just how widespread this misunderstanding is. For Palantir investors, this matters because public perception directly affects customer acquisition, regulatory pressure, and talent recruitment. When people think you're building dystopian surveillance, that creates real business headwinds. Now, as we know, Palantir doesn't collect data, it connects existing data. JD Vance makes this crystal clear. The government already has my information, and Palantir is just taking information that the Department of Homeland Security has, that the FBI has, and making it accessible. He uses concrete examples, catching an illegal immigrant using a stolen social security number, or helping FBI agents access information about a terrorist's past association. This is the crucial distinction that most people miss. Palantir isn't some hungry tech company harvesting your personal information. They're a software layer that helps government agencies talk to each other. The Department of Homeland Security already knows about a border crossing. The FBI already has terrorism databases. The Treasury already tracks financial crimes, but these systems don't communicate. Palantir solves the integration problem, not the data collection problem. It's infrastructure, not surveillance. The real privacy threat comes from big tech, not government tools. Vance points out the hypocrisy perfectly. He talks about discussing dinner plans with his wife and immediately sees DoorDash ads on social media. He mentions how private technology companies have way more information on me than the government does. This reframes the entire privacy debate. Google knows your search history, Amazon knows your purchasing patterns, Facebook knows your social connections, and TikTok knows your viewing habits, all for profit. Meanwhile, Palantir helps government agencies with constitutional oversight catch actual criminals and terrorists. The irony is that people worry about Palantir while freely giving infinite, more personal data to corporations that sell it to advertisers. At least with government use, there's laws, there's courts, and there's democratic accountability. What I think this conversation really shows us is the power of direct, honest communication in changing narratives. And here's my message to Alex Karp. Alex needs to do a podcast run to change public sentiment. Look at what Trump did in the lead up to the 2024 election. He went on every major podcast. Joe Rogan for 3 hours, Theo Von, Lex Friedman, and countless others. He bypassed traditional media and spoke directly to millions of people in long-form conversation where he could actually explain his positions without distortion. Karp should be doing the exact same thing. Right now, most people's understanding of Palantir comes from random headlines or conspiracy theories. But when you hear JD Vance calmly explain it to Theo Von for 10 minutes, suddenly it makes perfect sense. That's the power of long-form conversation. You can't distort or misinterpret someone's position when they have hours to explain it. Imagine if Alex Karp on Joe Rogan for 3 hours explaining what Palantir actually does, debunking the surveillance myths, talking about how they're helping Ukraine, protecting democracy, catching terrorists. The guy is brilliant. He's passionate about the mission, and he could absolutely change minds if he was given the platform. Get him on Rogan. Get him on All In with the tech guys. Get him talking to business podcasters, even comedy shows like Theo's. Let people see that he's not some shadowy figure building dystopian surveillance. He's a philosopher CEO who genuinely believes technology should serve democracy, not destroy it. The parallel to Trump is perfect. Both were massively misunderstood by traditional media coverage. Both needed to go directly to the people to tell their real story. You may be pro-Trump, you may not be, but it was effective. Trump figured that out and won the presidency. Alex Karp could figure out and win the narrative around Palantir.